This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 903, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you and you. Hello, my name is Connor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host Josh, the Celtic Kahuna Flanagan.
I've decided my new thing is going to be to put a nickname in there every time. That wasn't a good one, but
I tried to do that with my congestion, and my throat broke in the middle of one of those words.
Well,
so you probably heard it catch. That was my throat going, I'm really dry and inflamed. What are you doing?
I respect everything that just happened.
I think it was during Celtic. I can't remember anymore. I blacked out. Welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 903. Every week, one of us picks the book they like the best from the stack of comics they read, or the small stack, large stack, depending on the week. Call that book the Pick of the Week. We'll talk about that book, other books of the week, the Patron Pick, the listener mail will get answered if there is time. And here's your spoiler warning. There's going to be exercise some caution this week. Josh, you had to pick. Was it a big week, a small week? What was your week like?
It was very small.
It was a weird week.
It was, listen, it was a gift, if I'm going to be honest with you.
I had 15 books. 8 were Marvel and DC, which means 7 were indies. So it's basically evenly split between Marvel and DC and indies this week.
I had 11 books, and I had no DC books, and I had 5 Marvel books. So that's been happening to me a lot lately, is that I feel like I'm reading an even split or almost even more of the indies than the big two stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so Pick of the Week is The Space Between, #1, from Boom Studios, written by Karina Becco, art by Danny Luckert, and letters by Jim Campbell. I did not know this was a thing that was coming. I don't read everything Karina does.
She does a lot of licensed stuff.
She does a lot of licensed stuff. But she had a big hand in, when she was working with Gabriel Hardman, did they win an Eisner, or were they just nominated for an Eisner?
I can't remember. I think they're definitely nominated
for their Green Lantern book. And they did that great Invisible Republic book. And I think that when it comes to the world building part, she's clearly, got skill with that. And I've seen it in other stuff that she's done. She's like a sci-fi kid. The other thing about Karina that's amazing, she's like a zoologist, like a genuine, like she that's what she, does for a day job, but also she makes really good comics, and she's got this sort of sideline doing this thing. But I wasn't sure what to expect. And what I got was a really fun sci-fi book that had, a fairly obvious social message metaphor going on. But then how long was this thing? This is 25 pages, and it covered so much goddamn ground. I was really amazed. I just now I was like, was this 50 pages? And it's like, no, it's just a standard size comic book. It's hard for me to go through all of the things that happen, but I'm going to try to do a quick synopsis. There's a space station. They can't be on Earth because Earth's messed up. That's not new. We've seen that. Whatever. There's a woman, and she's a hell of a pilot, and she breaks some rules so she can save somebody. She's Maverick. She's a Maverick.
She's every pilot in every pilot story.
Whatever.
I'm just saying that's what every pilot does. They break the rules to save the day.
Which, by the way, is the actual thing that happens. If you've ever read the right stuff, it's real. Yeah. Anyway, and it's true. Like, I think there's a lot of very familiar tropes that are going on through here, but it was constructed in such a way that as I kept going, I kept being more impressed by it. So, she gets busted down to, she's stuck in her cabin, and she escapes, and she falls through one of the levels and into a big algae tank where she's fished out of somebody. And that's when you find out that this is a stratified society of a space station. There's people underneath, they grow the food and keep the oxygen going and all this stuff. And the people above are barely aware of them, and they don't see each other. And, it's the Butter Battle book. It's the Void Rivals. It's, there's these two societies that are next to each other, and they don't know each other, and then they don't respect each other because they have nothing to do with each other. And of course they fall in love. Because she takes him to see the stars. And then there's a whole political social upheaval story happens in very short order. And there is specifically a page, in one page, it's 6 panels, and each panel shows a time jump. So it's 1 month later, 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. And there's a lot of dialogue on there. And again, on paper, like, you'd be like, this is boring, but I was 100% into it. And I kind of got to the end. It could have been a short story, quite honestly. It could have been just this. I was just really impressed. I didn't know what to expect out of it. I knew it could have gone either way. I thought, oh, you'll probably enjoy it. It'll be fine. And then sometimes when you know, I know Karina. We don't hang out very often, but we have, and she's cool. And sometimes I read books from people who I kind of know, and I'm like, oh, I hope I really like it. Like, I don't, but I don't always. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, I was really impressed by this, and I had fun. And I thought the Danny Luckert art, I feel like the name's familiar, but I don't know who it is. It's really appropriate. I think there's times where, like, some of the draftsmanship on faces and things like that is maybe not quite there yet, but really strong. There's a ton to do. There's a lot of regular folk walking around with regular faces. And again, each of those people have, variations and uniqueness that let you know exactly who you're talking to and why. There's for a thing that has no costumes or whatever, great job making diverse and varied people throughout the entire thing. They did the colors too, and I think those worked out really well. They sort of that space gray and blue that's going on. As far as I can tell, it's sci-fi, but it's not supernatural or anything. There's no horror element, and it becomes, really cool social commentary. Basically, a lot of what was fun about Invisible Republic is in here, but that movie was a big fucking bummer. Or not movie, that series. Yeah. It was really dark and difficult, where I thought that this one had a little more joie de vivre in it. The characters had a little spark, and it didn't seem like, everything was bleak and there was no hope like Invisible Republic. Like, nothing was going to go well in that book, which, has a lot to do with the art. Hardman has a sort of a different style, and that fits with it. And I still enjoyed it. This just felt like a space sci-fi. It's like a classic sci-fi story, that's commenting on our world. Total surprise. And it wasn't even like I didn't hem and haw over it at all. And I didn't think I had the pick of the week until this afternoon. So when it was when I was reading, I was like, oh, I'd make this pick of the week, but it's not. But so as soon as it was, I was like, oh, I know the pick. It's easy.
It was fun.
Did you check it out?
I did. I did not like this at all.
Yeah, I figured. I could tell by your silence.
This was the second worst book I read this week. If not for Batman, the terrible final chapter of that stupid storyline, which I read only because I wanted to see how things were going to be shaking out in Batman world. I thought this was bad on every level, but I understand. But I liked it. You liked it.
What did you not? What do you like? Just from a story perspective, what did you not like?
There was some things I did like about it. Let me just say that real quick off the top of the bat. I think you're right. She's very good at world building. I liked the intricacies of how life would occur on this space station / spaceship. I can't tell if it's a ship or a station. But I thought, the whole underground world, how that works, how they grow food, how they grow oxygen, like all that stuff was good. The chicken stuff. And I thought the final bit where time jumped, as you said, on one page, 5 years, I thought that was really interesting and fun. Everything else I thought was not good. I didn't like the art. I thought the dialogue was very kiddie and kind of basic. I thought the structure was bad overall. I didn't buy the romance. They fall in love immediately, instantly. There's no chemistry between the characters. There's one part where she meets his friends, this lesbian couple. They hate her right off the bat. They spend about 45 seconds together, and then later on, when she makes her political stand, one of the women watching the feed says, "Wow, I never would have expected it to have been her." It's like, you don't even know her. You spent 45 seconds with her. Like, there were things like that. It felt like this would have been better as an arc, as a 6-issue arc than one issue. There was way too much that needed to happen to make the characters' motivations and actions make sense. As it was in one issue, everything happened very, very, very quickly and didn't feel earned. But the world building is interesting.
It's interesting. I think it's fair. I think that I could absolutely see that this wasn't going to be necessarily your cup of tea. This wasn't. It's always fun to be. I get to read. I'll sort of read.
I love sci-fi. I love romance. I mean, all this stuff should have been. I just didn't.
No, I just mean the I don't know, for whatever reason, the overall aesthetic of it basically is what I'm sort of.
I think it's interesting that the covers, these two characters, the woman and the man, the woman from above, the man from below, looking at each other lovingly, and I thought the romance was it just didn't get any. It didn't get any weight to it. There was no traction. It just happens immediately. There's no growing attraction. There's no chemistry. It's just all of a sudden we're in love after meeting, which can happen. But there's usually like intense chemistry, and that works better in films when the actors have chemistry and you can see it as opposed to drawings on the page. But I just didn't buy any of their actions after that. She fell into the well.
I think that you're right, but I do think there was a level of sort of like. Just high level sort of romance to it just to sort of get through it. So I think that I assume this is setting up sort of a larger thing, but as a first issue, she had to cover a lot of ground very quickly, and that could leave it lacking. And in fact, in that way, maybe this didn't make a great first issue because we don't really know where it's going to go from here. Like, that was
the most interesting part to me was like, well, now what? Because they jumped 5 years in the future. And so that was interesting. Not enough for me to continue reading, but I thought, but it ended as okay, well, what she did there was really interesting. Yeah. Even if the rest didn't work for me, I thought that was good.
I think the thing is that I have read there's been a lot of these space, apocalypse, like something bad has happened to other people. So there's been a lot of those lately.
A lot of climate change, anxiety comics.
Yeah, and most of them are really bad, but I want to like them. I really liked that one. I think it was also Boom, and I do not remember the name of it. It wasn't too long ago, but the lady on the space, she's the operations lady, and she ends up being the murder.
Oh, the murder mystery on the show, and the
AI is the killer, and she's addicted to space heroin or whatever. I liked that, but I did think that was pretty unpolished.
Yeah.
Like it got by on chutzpah to cover some of its roughness.
Space heroin being the worst heroin to be addicted to.
Yeah, well,
for sure.
Fentanyl's actually worse, turns out.
Well, space fentanyl is the top of the pyramid.
Right. No, you don't want anything to do with that. It's terrible. Anyway, but
I'm glad you liked it. I really am. I just doesn't mean we always have to like the same book. I just didn't like it, but that's fine. Sometimes you don't like things, and that's okay. I'm kind of surprised you read Ultimate Universe #1, although I guess not, because it really was just sort of the final chapter of that previous Hickman Ultimate miniseries that just ended. But it's being, from the cover and the numbering and the titling, it's sort of being propped up as sort of like the entry into the new Ultimate Universe they're doing. But it really wasn't that so much as it was a wrap up to the story they just did. So I was a little surprised you read it, but
there's two things. One, didn't have a lot of books this week.
Sure.
And two, I thought there was a very good chance it was going to be the Patron Pick, so therefore I just wanted to get ahead of it.
Okay, fair enough.
That said, I didn't know anything that you just said. I really thought, they're just going to start this story about this other, whatever's happened in this Ultimate Universe, and this is where it starts. And it worked for me in that respect, for sure.
It's sort of like of course, because this is where we are right now. It's a multiverse Ultimate Universe. It's not the one from before, which ended, and it's just sort of another Marvel universe that that one character, the maker, Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe, went to, and so it's just another multiverse in the grand Marvel multiverse. That's kind of what it is. This one looks more like the Ultimate Universe than the 616 one. That's really the only thing you don't know.
I know who everybody is to a certain extent. So in the beginning, you have some sort of Iron Man guy and some sort of Doom guy. And
Iron Man's interesting because he's a young Tony Stark. So he's Iron Lad here.
Right. He's Iron Lad. But I was like, Iron Lad is Kang. Like it
right.
like, so there's
I'd even forgotten. Yeah.
But even so, like I like that. Like if we're gonna do, I mean, this is let's call it. It's an Elseworld story, but you recognize the pieces, and as you go through it, you get to figure it out, and put it together. Oh, Sif seems to be in charge, and he's like, why? I don't know. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna find out. She shows up there. There's drama involved in that. I don't know who the Doom guy is. Who's the Doom guy? Did we know?
Just Dr. Doom?
Is it Dr. Doom?
Yeah.
In the beginning, is he like a young Doom? He's hanging out with Tony Stark.
Honestly, I don't remember. That miniseries tapered off very quickly for me in terms of interest, but it's just whatever this version of Doom is. I don't know if he's younger. He might be, but I like the contrast of having, we don't have to have Tony be the same age as all the other characters. He can kind of be the Peter Parker in the universe, and that's interesting. Thor was fun, and they go to get all these artifacts because what the Maker did in this world was he stopped the heroes from existing. So he went and basically time traveled to their origins and stopped them all from happening. And so they find his repository of artifacts, and they're only able to rescue one, and that's the spider that bit Peter Parker. So, as a jumping off point, I didn't dislike it at all. I just thought it was interesting the way they did it. It wasn't really like a starting point, more of an ending point. But I guess it also worked as a starting point if you didn't know it was an ending point.
It totally did, and I actually really liked it for that. Hickman, he's good in the short term. He always loses me in the long term. And so, an issue at a time like this, I think this is a really good single issue. What this felt like, we've talked about this a lot, but when we were kids, you'd get random comics and you just pick up an Avengers book, and read it. Yeah. And I thought this is like a perfect version of that. Like I kind of know where I'm standing, but I don't quite. And that mystery, that sort of lack of knowledge, lends it depth, gives me curiosity.
And so the whole thing ends on a, cosmic terrorist attack where this council of shadowy evil villains, one of them including Bruce Banner, the Hulk, frames Tony Stark and has one of his satellites shoot its satellite laser into New York and blows up a giant crater and kills a lot of people, including Norman Osborn and May Parker, as the names go across the bottom of the screen. So in this world, we'll have no Norman Osborn, no Aunt May. And so now the whole world thinks Tony Stark is a mad terrorist, madman. So then we have, the thing at the end that shows the books that are coming. Ultimate Spider-Man by Hickman and Chichetto, Ultimate Black Panther by Brian Hill and Stefano Caselli, who drew this issue, and Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko, whose book is teased at the end of 2 pages.
So
I'm interested.
I saw that Ultimate X-Men, and I thought, what are they fucking out of their minds? Because it's basically looks like chibi manga kind of thing. And I thought that's why would you? And then I thought, Josh, we have been saying forever they should go after different markets, and that's what this is. And I can't criticize it for that. I hope it succeeds. That would be great. I hope they're doing a different thing. It probably won't work because the people reading these books are even stodgier and more stuck in their ways than I am.
Right.
But I like my first instinct was, no, what are you doing wait, no, they should do this. Like, right. I guess after what I just said, I have to read it, but it doesn't mean it's for me.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's for you. It may not be.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm interested that they're doing Black Panther. Of all the books they could be doing, there's no Avengers book. It's just Spider-Man, Black Panther, and X-Men. So that's interesting. But we'll see. It was interesting. It was fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I enjoyed it. I think Stefano Caselli, he's been around for a while, and he keeps getting incrementally better.
I'm pretty sure he was the artist on Hickman's Secret Avengers run that was super long. Not Secret Avengers, Secret Warriors.
Yeah, and I think he was on stuff for a while, and I wasn't super into it. It's not my favorite style or whatever, but I think he's gotten really good.
Yeah, the art's good.
In that sense,
it's very
for
Marvel.
This kind of thing. Yes, exactly. It really fits that. And as you know, Italian artists are de rigueur right now.
Yeah, but he's one of the early ones. He's been in the game for a while. I was
here before you, huh? Exactly. Will you come along here, Luca Benditti, whoever you is, huh?
Exactly.
I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to really lean into.
It's going to take us down.
bad Italian. Nope. I think we're okay.
Okay.
I think we're all right.
X-Men,
I want to see if we can really piss off a group of people.
28.
For real.
Well, they're the ones to piss off because they got too much going on to seek revenge on us. I mean, they're very revenge-oriented people, but, you know.
What you just said was much worse than what I did.
The vendettas. Everyone knows about the vendettas. Come on.
They're a vindictive...
I said they're very revenge-oriented people. That means they're very into their vendettas, which they are. Everyone knows.
That's what vindictive means.
I know, but like, come on. You go to, you know, what is all the men? The vendettas. That's every movie in Italy. All right, so...
Joe Colombo got killed for talking like that. Or no, the other way around.
X-Men 28, Jerry Duggan, Joshua Cassara. I like this. This is fun.
I have never been as into an X-Men event, maybe ever.
Wow.
I am 1,000% into this. Like, they knock down the number of X-Men who exist to a reasonable number that I can keep track of. I mean, not in all the other books. I don't know what's going on in those. I think I'm gonna step away from Alpha Flight. I did my best.
Yeah,
not bad, just don't care. But like in this, I've got Starfire. Is it Starfire? Jeez. Firestar. Jesus, what an asshole. And Kitty Pryde and Ms. Marvel and Cyclops and Juggernaut. Like, I am on top of who is in this and what they're doing. And so there's none of that. Actually, there's two other X-Men in this scene, and they said their name, Cypher or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't know who they are, but I don't care because I just see them in the tunnels sometimes talking to people I do know.
Right.
You know, we have Wolverine in there. I literally wasn't sure if Wolverine existed anymore.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, oh, shit. Hey, look, it's Logan. Remember him, guys? The most popular superhero character in the world for like 30 years. The one who's been relegated to Wolverine number 2. He showed up, and I was like, hey, look, it's that awesome character that everybody used to love.
And he was
on a
awesome.
commando mission
really
with Shadow
to
Cat
see him.
and Miss Marvel. Yeah.
Like in a real Marvel Universe story, not like, you know, not in the offshoot multiverse story.
Right. I mean, he's got his own book. I'm sure he's been doing something, but I just haven't been reading it because I didn't love it.
I know. Listen to me. He has a book. That may be true, but I'm talking about in my specific experience.
I loved all the Firestar stuff. So she's been sent undercover by Emma Frost. I almost said Emma Stone. She's known for sending people undercover too.
Sure.
Emma Frost sent her undercover after the whole, you know, massacre at the Hellfire Gala, and no one knows she's undercover other than Emma Frost. So everyone thinks she's a traitor working with Orcus. And this is the first time where we've seen her put herself out there and try to help the X-Men. She taps Morse code on Cyclops' body, and she helps Juggernaut escape. But the whole time I'm thinking, this all seems very obvious. Like, your spycraft is not very strong. You're gonna get caught.
There's a bit where she takes first of all, you're right, like it's not good.
Yeah.
Like she's in the room and like sticks a USB drive in the computer with the other main bad guys there. I'm like, I feel like they'd have a program.
And then sticks it in Juggernaut's mouth.
Right, then throws it into his mouth, and then as you turn the page, by the way, I love this. I think this is all
super
goofy
fun.
ass,
yeah,
goofy ass shit. She throws it in his mouth, and the first panel on the next page is a massive amount of small dialogue as she explains exactly what happened to him. I was like, they have cameras,
right?
Like, I think we have the technology to solve that now. Not in super genius future X-Men world, like.
But then he runs through the wall and screams "Wahoo!" and I just was like, you know what? This is fun.
And then you do get, like, they confront her because at least, like, Duggan doesn't think we're stupid enough to be like, yep, they're fooled, you know. And they basically give her the hairy eyeball, and she's, you know, she pushes back, but she's like in you know, crazy torment about this situation she's in, which is, you know, what would happen. We've seen lots of undercover stories like this. We've seen Donnie Brasco and The Departed and others. You know, it's
Chuckles.
Great.
Yeah, no,
Chuckles. Exactly.
I like the Commando raid. I liked that team. I liked Miss Marvel and Wolverine and Shadowcat. You know, Wolverine and sort of his ex-teenage sidekick and his possibly new one, and they're fun. And then I like Firestar. I like her predicament, and you know, it's moving along at a nice pace.
Yes, it is. Like, and I want to know what happens next, but I'm not quite ready for it to end.
And then what happens is, in the Grand Marvel tradition, the last page character reveal is they're in Latveria,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to be with Doom now.
That's a good.
It's a good Doom
final page Doom reveal.
Like this furry cape.
That page is spectacular.
She's like, "Where are we? Are we in Germany? No. Are we in Austria? No." Then he says, "No, you're not in Europe. You're in Latveria." So is Latveria not in Europe? I thought he was Eastern European.
I heard that, and I what I would say is that Doom would likely not consider his domain as part of anything. So he would say this is not Europe. That's how I chose to read it. Geographically, he's 1,000% in Europe. There's nowhere else he would be.
Right. And he's one of those Slovenias.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
We're going to have to be careful here. But basically the area where the good white basketball players come from.
Yeah.
Right.
So this week I was very excited to read The Return of Superman 30th Anniversary Edition, which was a 80-page special commemorating the 30th anniversary of the death and return of Superman. We talked about the death of Superman on the Booksplode show, and this was a look back at the return storyline where all the 4 Supermen showed up and then eventually Clark returned. And it was done by like Dan Jurgens and Louis Simonson and John Bogdanoff and Jerry Ordway and Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett and Brett Breeding. And so like everyone involved in every story was involved in the original stories, including new people like Travis Moore drew the Dan Jurgens story, and Elizabeth Breitweiser did some of the colors, and Richard Starkings and people like that. But for the most part, it was anchored by the original people. And it was fun, though. I was very much amused by how the elastic nature of comics wormed its way into this story. Like the sliding time scale. Like, the Punisher was a Vietnam vet, and then he was the first Iraq War vet, the second Iraq War vet, like that kind of thing. So here, at one point, Ron Troop is walking in a flashback. He's a cell phone during the whole thing, and then later on, there's that shot that they used in the original comic of Superboy saving the woman in a towel from a building fire, and the caption's like, "It was the most liked and viral photo of all time." And I was like, "No, it wasn't. It was 1995. It wasn't like that at all." Like they're trying to cram it into it happened a few years ago, and it just was a little clunky. But it was great to see Jerry Ordway art. It was great to see Tom Grummett art. It was great to see Brett Breeding doing finishes over Dan Jurgens' art. Bogdanoff was a little strange because I find, and I don't know if he's doing it digitally or not, but I find that the digital art has a lighter weight to it than physical pencils do. Mm-hmm. Especially guys who did a lot of their career with pencils, like physical pencils. And so it seemed very kind of thin and lacking in weight. And Bogdanoff's art always had a ton of weight to it. The characters were big and burly, and it was just interesting to see how. And I don't know what he's doing digitally. It just looked like a lot of the artists I've seen. And I think of Raphael Albuquerque, who's someone whose characters had a lot of weight to them, and then he switched to digital, and they all seem very thin. The lines
that's almost thin. Still that's like yes, but I think there's also a technique to that.
Oh no, there's definitely a technique. A guy like Smallwood can replicate the feel of pencils in digital very well.
Yeah.
But you still, know it's digital from the way it's drawn. But still, I just feel like some people, and again, I don't know he did this digitally, it just felt that way to me. But it's just interesting to see. Anyway, this story was like a look back while Cyborg Superman is attacking Metropolis. There's a flashback for each character. So it was a flashback for Steel. There's a flashback for Superboy. There's one for the Eradicator, and there's one for Cyborg Superman itself, and then the story is wrapped up. And it was nice. It was a nice little look back to an era of Superman that I really liked. Maggie Sawyer's in here, and Perry White is sort of the thread through all of these stories, and it was really fun. I liked it.
See. I genuinely thought that this was like a reprint, like special edition. That's because they do that. Like there's a lot of those that come out. So I thought that's just what that is, because it literally it's 30th anniversary edition. So to me, I was like, oh, that's what that is. Good. I'm glad you did that.
It was fun. It was nice. Although in the story taking place now, Perry White's in a coma, even though I think in the regular books he's running for mayor. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Who knows? Nothing makes sense. It does also really show that the super mullet makes no sense whatsoever, because He grew the long hair while he was quote unquote dead, but the front hair never grew, just the back hair.
Yeah,
he should have all long. He should just have long hair, not a mullet, unless he had like little kryptonite robots in there trimming his front hair. But
my thought was that there is that. Maybe that's how it was programmed to do it, because on Krypton, a long back shag area is considered, a high status thing. I assume.
I mean, or he's just super into metal, 90s metal. That could be Clark's secret shame.
I just thought about it again, that it's like come back as the thing that kids do on purpose.
The mullet?
Yeah. And the glasses, all of it.
It hasn't been gone that long, if you think about it. We were doing mullet pieces on iFanboy.com in 2001.
I know, but I just thought that, I think it's a really interesting example of how culture moves on and how a given age generation will reject the ideas of the older people. And that was one of the first things. I was like, oh, I am from a different time.
Well, they reject the old people by recreating their fashions, which doesn't make sense. And that's ironic. That's not just Gen Z. Every generation's ever done that.
Yeah, they're not learning from. Yeah, but I feel like we lived through like a 70s sort of revival time. I think 60s and 70s, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I was
the 90s it's all its own thing,
right?
It was almost the 50s. If you look at the khaki pants and the button-down shirts, it was almost the 50s, but not quite.
It was a stripped down thing, but with like extra
40s,
large
50s
size
kind of
clothes. But yeah, I mean,
but not. It was like a take on that. It certainly wasn't the 70s or the 60s.
There was a sort of classicness to a lot of it. Not like the 80s were very like overblown and plasticky, and you're like, why would you do that? And then when the 80s stuff came back, I was like, no, we decided that was bad. Anyway, it doesn't ever really come back as much as the 90s is fully back, still. Everyone's still wearing 90s stuff all over the place. But. Yeah, but as I look back at that, I was like, I think we actually looked more stupid than we thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little stupid, but it's also a little generic. This is kind of bland.
Yeah,
in that sense, it's kind of classic because it's not like shoulder pads and weird colors. It's sort of just a lot of browns. Super into browns in the 90s.
Way too big.
Well, yeah, I had a sweater whose arms went past my fingertips.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But it was comfortable, and it was brown. It was brown. It was brown.
I don't feel like I was super into brown. I don't remember that as a thing.
Watch Friends. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. It was all browns.
Huh.
It was khaki pants and brown sweaters or shirts and vests.
Well, I'll check in. I'll check into that.
Not everything, obviously, but brown was one of the primary colors of the 90s. Anyway, we need to move on. So this week I took a flyer on Red Light, #1 from AWA. It's a 4-issue miniseries. And mostly I did because the artist is Priscilla Petrates, who is an artist I worked with on a comic that I edited at my old job, the comic called Dreadnought Legacy. Dreadnought is a whole other comic. I think Dreadnought Legacy should still be available on Comixology. I don't know that for sure, but it might be. And I don't get any money out of it if you buy it, but you should. It's very good. I liked her a lot. She was really fun to work with. She's a Brazilian artist. And so I saw she had a new book out, and so I checked it out. And it's the kind of book I don't normally read or just see that very much because I don't think it's a book done very much in comics. It's an erotic thriller.
I saw that. The solicitation for it.
Yeah, it's an erotic sci-fi thriller. In the future, there's a brothel in which all the sex workers are AI robots or powered robots, and she's one of them. And she's sort of fed up with her life of sex work and cam girl work and all the other work she has to do involving sex. And she's slowly breaking out of. It's a classic tale. At one point, someone gives her the Little Mermaid book. It's like that. It's like, I want to be more than this, but I'm trapped in this situation. And I enjoyed it. I really did. That
happens in Neil Stephenson's The Diamond Age.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a classic story. It's a classic, someone becomes self-aware and realizes that their life could be better or doesn't have to be like this and works to get out of it. And so we'll see. I've been noticing a lot of 4-issue miniseries lately. Last week, a million books came out, and several of them from Marvel and DC were 4 issues. I don't know if they were downgraded. They might have been from 5, which is an interesting and perhaps troubling trend. But I'm curious to see where this goes in 4 issues. I quite enjoyed it. I liked the art quite a bit. She has a very interesting style that can be very sort of down and dirty, but also sort of classically comic books. And we'll see. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a nice first issue. And if you're into sort of erotic sci-fi thriller, this would be a good one to go with. It's got a lot of nudity and sex, so FYI, in case you're reading it on the subway.
I don't know why that made me laugh. I'm checking in on Sacrificers number 4. This wasn't your bag. Are you still reading this?
Yeah, I read this issue. I can't remember what happened. I remember now. Yep.
There's a big party, and what we find out is that the cute animals who had been sacrificed, and then they were
kids,
made.
Children.
Yeah. The idea was to take their essence or whatever it was at the moment they were most happy, for the enjoyment of the ruling class or the gods or whatever the hell they are. And in this issue, we sort of see the party where there's all the intrigue going on and the double talk and all that stuff that happens at court. I love that shit. I'm a big fan of that. And then we find out when they drink the whatever the essence, the liquid is, that they all are de-aged. And that was 2 of my favorite pages of the week.
Yeah,
was realizing what was going to happen and how that was displayed.
It's very much like Hunger Gamesy, like the people of the capital are all rich and fabulous and wear crazy clothes, and they keep young and beautiful by drinking the life essence of the poor. Rick's been in Hollywood for a while, so he's seen behind the scenes of how all of the people here drink the blood of the children to stay young. That's a real thing. So
from the pizza places,
he's just translating that into comics. Is this his cry for help that he may not even realize he's doing it?
Like, I kind of didn't realize. I don't quite. I'm not able to wrap my head around the politics and the intrigue of all of these people. I really like it, though. I don't know, whatever the sort of...
the daughter of the king is sort of against what's happening, so she's going out on
the
her
daughter,
own.
And then the weird way that, like, his queen, who's the moon and he's the sun, her attitude is intriguing. But I don't really know how it'll play out. And I kind of hadn't noticed that everybody at the party was old because they're all weird, animals and bird-looking things. And so when you see them transform, I thought that art was fantastic. Right. And it very much accomplished what it was going for, to sort of show you how this was happening. I enjoy it. I think it's a very large and colorful bit of, it's not a difficult metaphor to sort of grab onto, but it's still it's fun enough for me. And also just it's different than what Rick does. And because he works at a high level when he does something kind of interesting and succeeds, where maybe another book by a lesser creator might not. Less experienced, we'll say.
In the Grand iFanboy tradition, I thought Traveling to Mars number 9 was the final issue. It was not. 11 is the final issue, which is an odd number to end on, but whatever.
It is.
I don't plan out trade paperbacks, but thinking it was the final issue, at a certain point, I was like, what is going to happen? I'm really enjoying this. Josh and I talked briefly offline about this book. I do think this is one of the best things Mark Russell's done. I don't think it's the best thing. He claimed online this week that it was the best thing he ever wrote. I think that's still Flintstones and some of his other earlier work. That cat book. What was that one that he did at DC? Also the
Snagglepuss.
I thought that was really good too. But this is certainly up there, and the best of what he's been writing lately for sure. And one of the things is that in issue 8 there was a giant twist, and I can't spoil it. I just can't, because if anyone's looking to read it, it'll blow the whole story. But I will say the twist made me go, oh, fuck. And then so that played out in this issue. And again, I can't give any details because I don't think many people are reading it. And I want people to read it. But this whole meditation on life and yearning and dreams and the corporate control of society and all the stuff that Mark Russell does has been working really, really well as the story of this guy with terminal cancer who has been sent to Mars to be the first man on Mars to claim its resources for this corporation, the Something Beef Corporation, has finally landed on Mars, and it's all playing out in a way that you weren't expecting.
Punch Him in the Beef?
That was Flintstones.
That was Flintstones. Yeah. Okay.
He's never going to do better than that, and he's just got to accept it. It's fine. Come out of the gate strong with Punch Him in the Beef.
Punch Him in the Beef.
and that's okay.
That's a genuine snort.
He's never going to get better than the vacuum cleaner being in the closet, and that's also okay. Yeah. Anyway, this has been very, very good. If you've missed Traveling to Mars, this is from Ablaze. It's very, very good, and it's Eisner. Multiple Eisner nominated Best New Series, Best Writer. Oh, it won Best Writer and Best New Series, didn't it? Maybe it did. No, nominated. It was nominated Best New Series, Best Writer, and it deserved to be. It's very good. So check it out. You've got 2 more issues left, but it's a mini series that you can go back and find them wherever Ablaze comics.
Who's the publisher? Is it
Ablaze? We just did a whole bit on it.
I'd forgotten in the time because I think in my mind it was Ahoy.
Ahoy does Second Coming.
Yeah, Ahoy and Blaze.
Yeah. There's a lot of companies with very similar names that are about the same size, full of former editors from Marvel or DC.
I really can't tell all the publishers. I know which one is
Blaze.
I know AWA. I know what that is because they have a different name, and I know that that's Axel for whatever reason that stuck with me because all the people who seem to do stuff for AWA are people from that early 2000s era at Marvel.
Yeah, there's got to be some consolidation.
We're gonna have Tim, what's his name, do all the covers. Him.
Anyway, that was Traveling to Mars. Those are the books we wanted to talk about on this light. I
left the book off.
I saw that.
I wrote it originally, I put the credits in, but it disappeared, and so we're leaving it there. That's fine. It's
actually that's a sign. The email to see what the book was to make sure it wasn't one of mine, but it wasn't. It was one of yours.
No, I remember writing the credits out, but whatever. I deleted it somehow.
We've already gone long talking about whatever it is we were talking about, clothing. Those are the books we wanted to talk about at patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron can vote to add a book to the rundown. And this week, the patrons voted to add Canary #1 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Scott Snyder, art by Dan Panosian, with Richard Starkings and Tyler Smith on letters. And we just talked about Scott Snyder last week with, what was that book last week? Oh, the Dungeon book.
The Dungeon.
And we read his Barnstormers book. This is another one of his Comixology books that started in Comixology, and now Dark Horse is printing physically. And again, much like Barnstormers, it's 2 issues worth in one. So this is like a 60-page comic. So you really get a meaty story here.
It's kind of cool because it makes it seem like he's been very prolific. But really, he's just releasing a lot of things. It's smart, I think.
So here's my main question for this book. Is the main character supposed to be wearing a pilgrim hat, or does Dan Panosian can he not draw cowboy hats?
Well, Dan Panosian is a goddamn master.
He's a great artist.
So he's one of the best he underexposed, which I think is up to him. He's
totally
picky about whatever, but he's amazing. From pinups to covers. He did 5 covers for this. If you look in the credits, it's just he's great. And I put him in that camp of artists that Darwin came out of.
He did. He was at Darwin's wedding. He did that Darwin tribute book.
Anyway, so that was a choice. I don't know why. I don't.
The whole time I was like, is he trying to draw a cowboy hat and just can't, or is this a thing? What is going on?
Man, I tell you something. I got very confused in that first scene because I thought that the guy standing there with the hat had killed the person.
And
then
too.
He walked outside and was talking to us, and maybe that was sort of on purpose or whatever,
I think it was.
But then he walked outside and started. I was like, it was him. You're talking to him. And then I went, oh, he was just because for some reason I literally pictured a gun in his hand. And I went back and it's like it's not there, and I can't tell if I wasn't reading it well or they were fucking with me. I would like it if they were fucking with me.
So this is a Western, horror Western. The famous U.S. Marshal who was made famous from dime store novels depicting an event that happened with him several years ago has shown up to investigate a murder. A young boy just killed a school teacher for no good reason. And turns out there's a bunch of weird murders happening in the same area. He gets teamed up with a black geologist because the geologist has a theory about this mine that's leaked stuff into the water that's made people go crazy, and they have to go. And turns out it's related to the case that made him famous in the first place. That's sort of the high level log line of the story. It was a little bit of a bummer because we just got through saying in the last episode how great it was that Scott was doing
It's like an Exorcist kind of thing, from what I can sort of.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's got teeth down his throat.
I mean, listen, you know, the scorpion and the frog. You know, can't deny your nature.
But it got us eventually.
That's his thing, and I fine. A lot of people dig that or whatever. I will tell you that the way that the creepy kid was depicted,
yes, that was really good.
I was like, that is every bit as effective, you know, as the girl in The Exorcist. You know, like I was like, I'm creeped out by this drawing, and the dialogue. I think it's really something that they were able to convey that menace, you know, through simple comic book pages, because it was scary.
Yeah,
I'm not like, oh, I'm not gonna, but I thought that's really effective. So I was kind of impressed by that. But no, I had that moment. I was like, oh, it's supernatural. But I really do like the story. I Pilgrim Hat guy, you know.
I have to know what's going on with that. It's gonna drive me crazy.
I bet there probably were hats. I think that we have an idea.
Oh no, the cowboy hat is actually an anachronism. They weren't
right.
Most people wore like bowler hats. The cowboy hat came from the Mexican cowboys, and and it's sort of spread that way. But if you look back at the photographs, most cowboys are not wearing cowboy hats.
Right, but we've also like slimmed
were they wearing pilgrim hats? Cool.
I don't know. But the point is, that's this dude. But he also has a mask like Grifter that has an upside down coffin on it.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of weird shit. And I was like, all right, I'm going with this.
It's just funny. There was one other moment where, so in the very beginning, the marshal and the town and the county sheriff are there, and the marshal's sort of not really giving the crime its due, and the town sheriff's like, there's got to be clues. We should lock it off. It's a crime scene. I was like, no one thought like that back then.
I did think that too. Very specifically, it was in the 20s or 30s when people started thinking.
Yeah, no local sheriff was like, "There's probably clues. Let's dust for prints and get DNA." Like, no, he didn't say that, but like that's basically what he was saying. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. It doesn't matter. The faces of this are terrific.
The first people who did say that were definitely like laughed off.
Oh sure,
like they were like, we're not doing that.
The faces in this are terrific. Not just the little boy, but I'm just scrolling through and looking at the sheriff's face and the marshal's face, and everybody's got this interesting and unusual face. No one's faces are duplicated. Yeah, I mean, my disappointment aside, I thought it was really fun, and I'm looking forward to reading more.
I kind of can't figure out.
Look, it's John Goodman on the last page.
I can't figure out what it is about Dan Panosian, and there's other artists like that, and I really like that style, but I don't know how to describe it. There's something. It's from a time. I feel like it came from the 80s, and it was like, from the 90s, and it was like influenced by indie comics from earlier, like in the 80s, but it's better. Like it's the draftsmen are better, and there's guys like that. There's, I feel like it's like kind of Frank Miller influenced, but
yeah, I don't remember I don't remember what blew him up. I don't remember. It's been so long.
I just remember sort of becoming aware of him on the internet through sketches or whatever.
Because he stopped working. I mean, I think he did Hollywood stuff. He lives here in LA. Yeah. He used to be on the fringe of a friend group. I was in the fringe of. I never hung out with him, but my friends did, and so it was. I don't know what he's been doing, but he doesn't need to do. I mean, he can work whatever he wants.
Yeah, I get that sense. Him and like Dave Johnson, they're sort of of a group.
That's true. So yeah, ratings on Canary #1. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. That may sound low, but I think it's a solid 4.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. For sure. I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I mean, slightly disappointed about the horror angle, but that, whatever. And the hat. It's driving me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to knock it down. But I'm looking forward to more. So I'm going to be sticking with it, obviously. Yes, Canary #1 from Dark Horse Comics, originally printed by Comixology Originals. That's the Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron votes to add a book to the rundown. And the patrons over at Patreon, they're our main source of support. They are the ones that help keep the show going. All of our various shows, the whole iFanboy enterprise. They allow us to pay our bills and pay ourselves and all the stuff that has to be done to make this boat keep moving. It's like a boat. What's that thing in the firm? It's like a boat. There's no port. It just stays on the ocean.
I don't know
forever
the firm well enough to be able to pick up on that reference.
Talking to Paul Sorvino, playing a mobster.
You're not helping.
I am like a boat with no port. Basically, my point is this. iFanboy never stops. And how we do that? Because of the patrons. They directly support the show. They become part of a great community on Discord and Facebook. There's a monthly patron hangout. We just did that last weekend. And they've got tier exclusive merch. So they get tote bags and hoodies and t-shirts and mugs and stickers and posters and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you were thinking of becoming a patron for the holidays or for, starting the new year, we would appreciate that very much. Patreon.com/iFanboy and iFanboy.com/threadless. Nope, that's not the thing. iFanboy.threadless.com is the thing. And that's where you can find our t-shirts. We got 13 designs, and those are fun. And if we ever come up with a new one, it'll show up there. We haven't thought about it in a while. We should probably put some brain power behind that. iFanboy.com/support is our PayPal digital tip jar. If you need to clear out some cash before the end of the year, before your fiscal year is up, there's always iFanboy.com/support. We will take in all currencies and all, no questions asked is basically our motto. It's always been our motto. iFanboy.com/Amazon. This is a big one. Holiday time's coming up. People start shopping already. iFanboy.com/Amazon is where you can find a link to Amazon. It's a little affiliate link. We get a little piece of the action. Nothing comes out of your pocket, comes out of Amazon's pocket. And it helps also. So if you're thinking about doing any Amazon shopping this year, consider doing it through iFanboy.com/Amazon. It's right there at the top.
We just want to wet our beak a little.
We're wetting our beak, but not through your monies. You're not coming out of Rocket Boys money.
It's quiet. Shh, they're gonna know.
Bookshop.org is our partner to help local bookstores, so you can find those links on the Booksplode books. And we thank everyone who does any of the above to help support the show. We do appreciate that. It's the only way to keep the show going, and that's how it works these days. Let's do one email, and you can decide since you picked. Oh no, we got to do the Patron Power. Whoops.
Yeah, we do.
Skip right past that. Patreon.com/iFanboy, as we mentioned, is where you can vote to add a book to the rundown. You can be part of a great community, but also if you give the $5 higher level, you get a Patron Power live on the show. Sorry, Matt, almost skipped right past you.
Matt, singular, mononomial.
Just Matt.
I don't know if that's a phrase.
Mononomial.
Matt knows what you're going to say
before you say it.
Yeah, but only that thing.
How far does precognition? Just a sentence or what? A word or what?
Yeah, he's basically one sentence ahead or one thought ahead at all times. But it's not like you can see, but it's to be fair, it doesn't. I'm guessing there are certain legal negotiations where that would be helpful, but for the most part, it just makes him really annoying. He's like, let me stop you right there. Like, Matt, just let me get through the fight. I know but let me get through the sentence.
Is he reading your thoughts, or does he know the word about to come out of your mouth?
I mean, is there a difference?
Yeah, because you might be thinking something you're not going to say.
No, he knows what you're going to say.
Okay.
So it is possible to fool him.
I see.
He knows what you're going to say. Like, you've said it before. I know what you're going to say. He really does every time. It's infuriating. But so think of it the other way. Say that Matt is an empathetic sort, and he goes, "Oh, when I do that, people are really upset by it." So it's driving him nuts. Everybody's a step behind.
Is it just with people, or does he know is he watching a movie? Does he know what the next line of dialogue is going to be, or is it?
No, that's a done deal. Like if he's talking to somebody, he has to be, and it doesn't work through TV. It's only, nearby. So maybe there's some sort of the biological thing happening. He reads who knows?
Right. Whatever the magic is of the power.
So, I mean, like you would take this a little further. If I'm writing the sci-fi of this, it's that he really likes to disappear into movies and things because he doesn't know what's happening. That's what he does.
Drown the voices out.
Yes. Yeah.
Matt's power is ultimately, and his story is ultimately tragic.
I'm telling you right now, I'm seeing the trailer for the movie. I'm seeing it.
And so is Matt, because he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Right. No, he can't wait. I see it but I'm seeing it as like a 1986 movie starring Tom Hanks. And like he kind of dismisses the pizza guy.
Well, the thing is, like, it starts off
get a
funny,
word out. Yeah,
and then it gets dark in the middle.
Yeah,
that's when you realize it's a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't honestly, I don't know if 86 Hanks is ready for that. Obviously, he would have it later.
He really nails the comedic part.
Yeah, no, he thought he was signing on for a different kind of project is the thing. And Barry Levinson wanted to stretch, but it didn't.
He's like more Pep Streetbeck, but no, this is actually darker.
He thought he would get some of that energy he brought to the Burbs, but it didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
I'd watch it though. You know, there's moments.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks, Matt, for being a patron. And I think...
Oh, you can make it a romantic comedy.
Have we gone too far to the sun? Have we talked too much about pants and Tom Hanks to do an email, or what do you want?
Okay, so we'll go with number one.
Scott from Portland, Oregon. I've been thinking about this since your book exploded on It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood. For me, that book is the most formally inventive comic I've read since Asterios Polyp by David Mazzucchelli. Can you think of any other artists in the iFanboy era who have really pushed the medium forward and played with it in inventive ways like these two have? In the iFanboy era, it would be it was Clowes, right?
Jimmy Corrigan was the name of the book. Chris Ware.
Chris Ware is the one I'm thinking of. Chris Ware would be the most probably...
That counts as the iFanboy era because it's a very long era.
Yeah, and it came out while we were doing iFanboy. I think he's probably the most sort of not genre, but medium pushing of the creators I can think of in the last 23 years.
I'm guessing there's a lot of it that we ended up not seeing.
Sure. But also, like, the question is what actually pushes the medium forward? You know, what actually changes things? And it's not...
I think... So in the mainstream, like if you're talking about in comics, I think David Aja is probably a front runner in that way.
Maybe, yeah. In terms of
I like that
aping what he did in Hawkeye.
Yeah, no, and yeah. I also just think a lot of these folks are informed by some of the choices made in those sort of 90s, early 2000s things. And so one thing I like is that I feel like I see a lot of this. I see a lot of little bits of sort of formalism. I mean, Tom King is constantly, that Rorschach series in particular had a lot of that, as did Adam Strange. You know, like there's bits of it in there where they're reaching, but it's in the context of, you know, a traditional comic book or something like that. So I like seeing it bleed in. I think it's like, you know, when we started to hear electronic music and rock music, you know, a lot more, and those lines became faded. It's not a full answer to your question, but I think that we have seen an elevation of the art form, you know, that you know, again, started with Jack Kirby, and it turns into a lot of things.
I think, you know, the real question is like, what is actually, you know, pushing the medium forward? I don't know that Asterios Polyp did, because no one is able to do what he did. It's not like book comics changed after Asterios Polyp came out.
It sets a bar, just like all those kinds of books. It sets a bar,
absolutely, but it's not like people started doing comics like that. Same, and It's Only the Center of the Earth was terrific, but I don't know that it's medium pushing. It's just a really
Perez,
good, you know.
When he in Tale of Sand, I think he did a lot of that, and he has the ability to, but he also can do straight up sort of, you know, mainstream narrative comic book storytelling.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it
in a medium like comics. It's not. Stagnant is the wrong word, but it's very much traditional.
It's also very, you know, deadline driven. Yeah. There's not a lot of time to it. So when you're talking about a project like that, you're talking to Zoe Thorogood. You know, she worked on it over a period of time. That was what she had to do. Dave Mazzucchelli had the freedom to do that kind of thing, and you know, as did Chris Ware or whoever else it is. But the monthly grind of comics, you won't see it in there so much. Even the, you know, Image books or whatever. It's just not. It's given the way that they're made and the time frame and the cost, all that stuff. You don't get a chance to it.
Things definitely change the medium where people start aping that style or things that people are doing. Like the original Image boom, those guys all changed the medium for a period of time. Bendis changed the medium for a period of time. Warren Ellis changed the medium for a period of time. There's definitely guys, or women who come in and do things that the medium tries to emulate. It doesn't do it all that well, but for sure.
I think you're talking about You're talking about influential things, where is just when I say he's push the medium, is that you see something that you haven't seen before, or, you know, that it, you know, is unusual, that feels new. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to ape it.
Is the one.
Yeah.
All right.
I went to an exhibit once, and they had it was the Jewish Museum in New York, and they had original pages.
You saw them, right?
Yeah, I saw original. It was two people specific. I saw original Kirby pages, like good ones. Not there aren't, but there's Kirby did a lot of Workaday stuff, but they were great Kirby pages that you could see in the flesh. And then there was Chris Ware pages, which blew my fucking mind. They were gigantic, and he had done all of the script, all the calligraphy, all of the lettering and stuff that was super. Detailed and intention and really, really precise. And it was like all drawn on the board, like the old school Illustrator way. And it was amazing.
Right. All right. Read the third one. I can answer that one very fast.
Jimi John L says, this is a question specifically meant for Connor. I know you have a lot of misgivings and negative feelings towards Damian. Does that affect your view on Morrison's Batman? Do you still like their run in spite of your dislike towards Damian?
I mean, yes, I haven't thought about it that much, but yes. I mean, just because the consequences were unintended and the consequences were not seen at the time doesn't affect the run itself, which was still very fun.
Was it supposed to be like it was like canon? I mean, it was like the real story.
Yeah.
They just kept it.
Yeah, and then if you recall, Morrison killed Damian off at the end of their run.
I do not recall.
It was in that special right before or right after the New 52. Damian was killed, and then Cosmic Crazy button was pressed, and he was just back with no explanation. So, things happen in runs. Like, for instance, we really didn't like Bendis's, taking away Superman's secret identity, but doesn't mean the run wasn't good.
It really was, and
at least the first half of it was.
And they erased it.
Yeah,
like it didn't stay. So whatever. It was fun.
So, it is what it is. You can't. I mean, yeah, I can look back and say, yeah, ultimately it was a mistake to introduce Damian in that storyline, but we didn't know at the time. We liked it at the time, and they're good comics. I mean, Batman and Robin is that for those first 6 issues are amazing, and the whole run on Batman I thought was really good. Not all of it, but on the whole, it was a Batman that we hadn't seen in a while. It was like a 70s style, Batman, and it was super fun. But consequences are not always apparent at the time. But it doesn't mean I don't look back on it. But I honestly haven't thought about it. I'm just I've cut Batman out of my heart and my life. It's very sad.
I'm sorry.
It's just very sad. I read that issue this week. It was so bad. so bad.
I'm sorry.
It's terrible. I don't understand. Anyway, thanks, Jimmy John. And thank you, Scott, for writing in. Contact at iFanboy.com. You can also write in for a Media Explode show. Put Media Explode in the subject line so we know where it's supposed to go. Let's do some quick plugs, or not so quick plugs. Out now, we have 2 shows in the feed behind this one. 2 back is our Media Explode show where we reviewed Killers of the Flower Moon, and we also talked about 3-hour movies, the proliferation of them lately. And then just behind the show, came out right a couple days ago, Josh talked to Jason Aaron on Talksplode. And I haven't listened yet because it came out just hours ago, but it was long. And it seemed like
the same.
good.
I'm always within a couple of minutes.
It seemed like it was a good conversation. From
115, 118. Yeah, no, like I had to end it. Like we could have kept going.
Right.
And it's weird because he's, if you listen to it, he's quite taciturn. He's quite calm, and you can take that to mean is he not want to talk? But he does. He's just,
it's his personality.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was great. Like he was really thoughtful, and he answered my questions, and we didn't end up necessarily going in the direction that I had sort of had in my mind, which is I do that on purpose. But yeah, and time flew by.
So there you go. You can listen to Jason Aaron's conversation with Josh on the feed right behind this one. And so now that we are entering into November, it's a good time to go over the holiday schedule so no one is confused or surprised, especially any new listeners. So between this show coming out on November 5th and the end of the year, there are 5 more Picks of the Week show, but there are 11 shows total when you add in all the extra shows. So we have a Media Explode on November 9th. We have Pick Week 904 on November 12th. We have the Marvels review on November 16th. And then we have Pick Week 905 on November 19th, Pick Week 906 on November 26th. And then on November 30th, we'll have our Booksplode review of the first 4 books of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Eastman and Laird. And then into December. December 3rd will be Pick Week 907. December 7th will be our... No, there's no Media Explode that year. I don't know. That's an empty one. Let me take that off the schedule. December 3rd is the Pick Week 907. December 10th is Pick of the Week 908. And then at some point in December, either December 14th or the earlier December 7th will be the final Talksplode of the year. And then the final show of the year. So the final Pick of the Week is December 10th, Pick of the Week 908. The final show of the year is the All Media Year and Roundup on December 17th. And then we take our holiday break and come back strong on January 7th with Pick of the Week 909. So that's the holiday schedule, which I will streamline for the next show. I screwed up that date. I got to fix all that. Also, real quick, I wanted to thank the students in comic books, subculture to pop culture at Indiana University East. We did another guest lecture about podcasting, comic books. It was Ron Richards and I. Josh couldn't make it, so it was the two of us. And it was the class of Professor Gordon, the intern. He brought us in to talk about comic book podcasting because they have an assignment where they had to make a podcast about Watchmen. And so they had a lot of questions about podcasting, about comics, about how we think about making the show, how decisions are made, all that stuff. It was really interesting and fun. We're on the college circuit now, Josh. It's our second lecture.
If there's ever been proof that the college university system, which is now ridiculous overpriced, is broken, it's that someone thinks that we're worth listening to.
Right. So listen, if you're out there and you're a professor, and we know there are many of you listening, and you want us to come lecture your class about podcasting or comics or whatever, we're open. Send us an email, contact@ifanboy.com.
And then this is this is the no fee trial period.
Oh, yeah,
this is a preview. Like you better get on it soon because prices are gonna go up.
So we had a lot of fun doing these two lectures, or these guest lectures, whatever you want to call them. So super fun. If you want us to come talk to your class, let us know. We're happy to do that. So there you go. And also, let's move on to, you can find all of our shows, there are over 1,300 of them, on our feed. They're all over at ifanboy.com or on our feed. If you just check our feed on any podcast aggregator, they're all there. And they're all there for your listening pleasure. You can follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram to find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. And sometimes the Best of the Week in Panel feature. And individually, we are CS Kilpatrick on Instagram and J.A. Flanagan on Instagram. Although, are you changing your handle to the Celtic Kahuna?
I got to look at the rules for changing your name around. I'm already past that. I'm not as embarrassed about it as I was. I wish you hadn't mentioned it again. It wasn't that impressive. But now I have a whole.
Your brother would use that as his Instagram handle.
He's not. I wouldn't call him of the Celtic background. He's sort of a. I don't know what he is.
A mutt.
But yes, yeah, he is. I guess I can do this next part. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, that's your name right there.
Well, that's a letter.
It's your initial.
So we don't. Yeah, but who can say what that means?
Jim Viscardi is in here, so it's got to be
exactly. I'll listen. I'm not. I can't be sure of it. I'll take on the mantle. That's fine. That's what I do. I take responsibility. Subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy, where you'll find all our old video shows. They're all there. We post this show there every week. There's many minis. There's many covers, topics that were covered. There's many things that there are definitely topics. I myself would be terrified to listen to a younger, less informed, but perhaps more sure of himself version below V8. I'm sure
there was definitely bloviating going on in the 2000s for sure.
I feel like Ron's very sure of himself. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, as was a young Connor is very sure of himself, but a younger Connor was even more so. And I felt like maybe I had to rise to that level where more my thing is, I know I'm right, but I can say to you, I could be wrong. Right. And that's fine, but that's not what was happening.
Well, you don't want equivocation on your show. You want to be,
Oh, I equivocate all the time now. It's my whole move. You can't get me.
Right.
It won't hold up in court. He equivocated. The equivocation defense. It's a classic.
I don't think that holds up
amendment.
In court. I don't think it does.
That's fine. I wouldn't know. And honestly, I'm boring enough that I don't think it's ever going to come up. Consider writing a review or leaving a star rating on it. Why are we just keep talking? I don't know.
I literally have people waiting for me downstairs to eat.
I must miss you. That's what I think is happening. I think I'm very much enjoying your company. I'm glad that your voice is not racked by pain. But I also have people waiting. I
couldn't do the Big Kahuna thing again, but
Just stop saying it. I'm going to edit all of this out.
Ooh, that's our next shirt. The Celtic Kahuna.
I feel like I don't know. There's something about that I don't like.
No, it's terrible. I would sell four shirts, and 2 of them would be us.
More than the Tom Hanks shirt.
It's a great shirt. It's a great shirt.
It's a great shirt. It makes me laugh every time. It's got a real Pep Strebeck quality about it. That is all. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm Connor.
That makes me Josh.
He's the Celtic Kahuna.
No, he isn't. Stop. I'm sorry.